They were the most famous children in the world, living a life that millions of kids across the globe envied. Every week, they brought laughter into our living rooms with their quick wit, adorable smiles, and that iconic catchphrase, "Whatcha talkin' 'bout, Willis?" But while the world was laughing, a slow and painful tragedy was unfolding behind the scenes of Different Strokes. This wasn't just a story of child stars growing up, it was a systematic downfall fueled by greed, exploitation, and a complete lack of protection for the very children who were making millions for the network. Today on Bulletin Alert, we are peeling back the layers of a story so heartbreaking that it has become known as the Different Strokes curse. But was it really a curse, or was it the predictable result of a Hollywood system that treats children like disposable products? Gary Coleman was the undisputed star of the show. His diminutive stature and adult-like comedic timing made him a global phenomenon. But Gary's life was a battle from the very first day. Born with a kidney disease that stunted his growth, he spent his childhood in and out of hospitals. When he landed Different Strokes, the world saw a cute kid, but Gary was a boy who knew he would never grow taller, trapped in a body that didn't match his age. The producers knew this was his selling point. They didn't see a child who needed care, they saw a golden goose. While Gary was working grueling hours on set, his finances were being handled by his parents and advisors. It wasn't until the show ended that Gary realized the horrifying truth: the millions he had earned were gone. He was left with nearly nothing, forced to sue his own parents just to survive. The emotional betrayal of realizing that the people meant to love you most were actually your biggest predators is a weight Gary carried until his final breath. He went from being the highest-paid child actor on TV to working as a security guard, mocked by the public who once adored him. Then there was Plato, who played the wholesome Kimberly Drummond. Dana was the image of the perfect American girl, but her reality was far more isolated. Behind the scenes, Dana struggled with a sense of belonging. When she became pregnant during the show's run, the producers didn't offer support or find a way to work it into the script. Instead, they deemed her unfit for the show's image and fired her. This was the moment the floor dropped out from under her. For Dana, the show was her family, and being discarded so coldly sent her into a downward spiral of substance abuse and legal trouble. She went from the heights of Hollywood fame to robbing a dry-cleaning store in a desperate attempt to get by. The tragedy of Plato reached its peak when she lost her life at a young age, followed years later by the equally tragic loss of her son. It is a haunting reminder that when the industry is done with a child star, they often leave them with no tools to navigate the real world, leading to a cycle of despair that can span generations. Todd, who played Willis, faced his own unique set of demons. As a young black actor in the 1980s, Todd was subjected to intense racism both on and off the set. While he was a star on screen, he was often treated like a second-class citizen the moment he stepped off the studio lot. This disconnect between his fame and his reality led him down a dark path of addiction and violence. He became a fixture in the tabloids for all the wrong reasons, eventually facing a high-profile trial that could have ended his life in prison. Todd is the rare survivor of this curse, having found his way to sobriety and peace, but he is the first to tell you that the fame they experienced was a poison. He describes a set where the children were often left to their own devices, surrounded by adults who were more interested in their schedules than their well-being. The producers created an environment where these kids felt invincible and invisible at the same time, a dangerous combination for any developing mind. What the audience never saw was the profound loneliness that defined these three lives. They were co-workers, but they were also three children trapped in a high-pressure bubble. They were expected to perform like adults, carry the weight of a multi-million-dollar production on their shoulders, and yet they were denied the basic emotional support that every child needs. The producers and executives were aware of the cracks forming. They saw the behavioral changes, the health struggles, and the signs of distress. But as long as the ratings were high and the "Whatcha talkin' 'bout" merchandise was selling, the cameras kept rolling. The dark secret of Different Strokes wasn't a hidden scandal, it was the open secret of child exploitation that Hollywood chose to ignore for years. When we look at Gary, Dana, and Todd, we shouldn't just see a tragic downfall. We should see a reflection of a society that consumes child talent and discards the human being once the cuteness fades. Gary Coleman's anger, which the media often mocked, was the righteous fury of a man who had been robbed of his childhood and his fortune. Dana Plato's desperation was the cry of someone who had been told she was worthless the moment she stopped being perfect. Todd Bridges' struggle was the fight of a young man trying to find his identity in a world that only saw him as a character. Their stories are not just Hollywood trivia, they are a cautionary tale about the cost of fame and the fragility of a child's spirit. As the years have passed, the Different Strokes legacy has become a somber chapter in television history. It serves as a reminder that behind every laugh track, there is a human story that we often fail to see. The curse wasn't supernatural, it was man-made. It was a product of a time when there were fewer protections for child actors and even less understanding of the long-term psychological effects of early fame. Today, we remember Gary, Dana, and Todd not just for the joy they brought us, but for the heavy price they paid. Their lives were the facts of life that Hollywood tried to hide, but their truth has finally been exposed. We owe it to their memory to ensure that no child ever has to face that kind of darkness in the pursuit of a dream. The story of the Different Strokes kids is a call to action for everyone who loves entertainment. It asks us to be more mindful of the people behind the roles and to demand better treatment for those who give their childhoods to our screens. As we look back at the old episodes, we can still appreciate the talent and the chemistry of the cast, but we do so with a heavy heart, knowing what was waiting for them just off camera. The smiles were real, the laughter was real, but the pain was the most real thing of all. Gary, Dana, and Todd were more than just stars, they were children who deserved a chance to grow up, to be protected, and to be loved for who they were, not just for the ratings they brought in. Their downfall was a tragedy, but their exposure is a necessity, so that the curse finally ends with them.